Okay, let's unpack this. Our first deep dive today plunges us into the complex world of geopolitics. Specifically, we're looking at a really fascinating and, well, enduring triangular dynamic in South Asia. Our sources, starting with a powerful editorial piece, they reveal this intricate interplay between the United States, India, and Pakistan. Yeah, this first editorial frames the relationship as one of enduring strategic necessity, but also, importantly, a contest of political ideologies, national interests, and historical legacies. What immediately jumps out, I think, is the mention of President Donald Trump's recent lunch with Pakistan's Army Chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir. This isn't just, a casual meeting. The article describes it as a deliberate overture laden with both symbolism and nostalgia. And it even includes Trump's claims of brokering a ceasefire between India and Pakistan using trade as his leverage.
Right. And what's truly insightful there, I think, is how that specific interaction signals, perhaps, an American eagerness to revert to a kind of diplomacy of shortcuts, adopting a very transactional view of foreign policy.
Transactional? Okay. Why does that matter so much?
Well, because it sharply contrasts with the delicate trust meticulously built through decades of U.S.-India counterterrorism cooperation. And their strategic alignment, particularly regarding China, that U.S.-India relationship, it was widely seen as one of the more credible episodes of American diplomacy post-Cold War.
That's a really profound observation.
Yeah.
The article also points out America's, pronounced shift from Trump's earlier, quite blunt censure of Pakistan's Machiavellian policy, that whole cooperating on counterterrorism while maybe supporting certain groups.
Yeah, the double game accusation.
Exactly. To now reopening security assistance, we're talking about, $397 million authorized for Pakistan's F-16 fleet? And then you have these public acknowledgments from top American military officials openly calling Pakistan a phenomenal partner. It clearly reveals a significant recalibration.
And this recalibration, well, naturally, it sparked considerable concern in New Delhi. The U.S., which, often positions itself as a champion of liberal international order, now seems to treat Pakistan not as a terror-permissive and nuclear-armed outcast state, but as a strategic interlocutor.
A strategic interlocutor.
Okay. And several factors seem to be driving this shift. Potential economic incentives, maybe a developing personal rapport with Pakistan's military leadership, and America's, let's say, enduring desire to maintain leverage in Afghanistan and the broader region, especially concerning China.
Meanwhile, India had its own dramatic doctrinal departure after the Pahalgam terror attack. India's Operation Sindoor and Prime Minister Modi's declaration of a new normal.
Right.
Well, that signaled a clear readiness for kinetic military retaliation.
Yes.
Alongside a pretty aggressive diplomatic campaign aimed at isolating Pakistan globally.
And on the other side, Pakistan has responded by intensifying its own dual-track strategy. This involves a mix, really. Military posturing, but also robust diplomatic engagement with the U.S., specifically trying to revive international focus on Kashmir. The recent promotion of Asim Munir to Field Marshal, well, that further solidifies what the source calls military primacy and a hard state doctrine. Pakistan's strategy also cleverly leverages its geographic centrality and what the article terms personal diplomacy, trade talks, concessions on rare earth minerals, to kind of maintain its relevance on the world stage.
It sounds like a constant chess match.
Yeah.
Really complex. And what about the U.S.'s overall role in this triangle? The article uses the term deliberate ambivalence, almost like they're preoccupied with tariffs and trade, maybe giving India's role in the Indo-Pacific less attention than before, despite, high-level meetings like the Quad.
Exactly. And that ambivalence becomes really pronounced when you look at India's consistent rejection of any third-party mediation in Kashmir. India firmly asserts, these are sovereign security issues,
Right.
which stands in stark contrast to Pakistan's, eager embrace of American engagement. They see it as crucial to keep Kashmir on the diplomatic map and counterbalance India. So any American effort to hyphenate New Delhi and Islamabad, treating them as equals, essentially runs counter to India's vision of itself as a rising global power.
That raises a key question then. What does drive Pakistan's continued relevance for the U.S. beyond just history?
It really seems to boil down to the immutable facts of geography. Pakistan sits right at that crossroads of South, Central, and West Asia, bordering Iran, Afghanistan, China. This location makes it an indispensable linchpin for U.S. regional strategy. Logistical intelligence roles remain critical.
Okay.
And you add to that its carefully honed craft of personal diplomacy, which the source suggests often gives its military leadership a bit of an inflated sense of purpose. Ultimately, as the article includes, U.S. policy here just oscillates between idealism, realism, and transactionalism. It's a pragmatic dance, really, shifting priorities.
That's a powerful snapshot. Okay, moving from global power plays, let's turn inward. Our next deep dive, also from the editorial section, tackles a crucial domestic issue: India's commitment to social justice. Specifically, equitable representation for marginalized communities and this persistent, troubling problem of unfilled faculty posts in central universities and top institutions. The Constitution mandates specific quotas, right? 15% for SCs, 7.5% for STs, 27% for OBCs, and 10% for EWS. Clear mandates.
Yes, absolutely.
Yet despite these, there's this stubborn, persistent gap in actually filling those faculty positions.
And the scale is quite striking. Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan reported back in April 2021 across 45 central universities, 2,389 vacant SC posts, 1,199 for STs, and a huge 4,251 for OBCs.
Wow.
And a more recent UGC report from 2023 indicated nearly 30% of reserve teaching posts remain unfilled. And this problem is especially bad at the senior levels associate professor.
Which is interesting because you often see lower-level public sector posts getting filled, so why the gap in academia?
Well, there seem to be 4 key factors at play, according to the source. First, the autonomy of central universities. It sometimes insulates them from rigorous oversight. VCs, selection committees, often from dominant groups, might show a lack of urgency or accountability. Second, and this is a big one, the shift in 2018 to the 13-point roster system.
Ah, yes, that was controversial.
Extremely. Instead of applying reservations across the whole university's vacancies, now each department is treated as the unit. This drastically reduces the number of reserved positions available, especially for STs in smaller departments. It's prompted legal challenges, naturally.
Makes sense. What else?
Third, persistent allegations of bias in the selection process itself. Qualified candidates getting rejected under vague criteria like candidate not found suitable. A 2022 Ambedkar University study found over 60% of reserve post vacancies were due to these kinds of rejections.
Not suitable. Very subjective.
Exactly. And finally, institutional practices. Concerns about biased appointments influenced by political affiliations or ideological alignment further undermine fairness.
This paints a really concerning picture for achieving truly inclusive education. So how can India's institutions actually tackle this?
It absolutely needs a multi-pronged approach. First, stricter enforcement of UGC guidelines, more teeth, basically, coupled with regular audits and public reporting for real accountability.
Transparency, yes.
Second, revisiting the 13-point roster system is critical, making sure it aligns with the Constitution. The Supreme Court is actually hearing cases on this right now.
Okay.
Third, tackling bias in recruitment. That means enabling diversity in selection committees, standardizing evaluation criteria, maybe even training for academic leaders.
Building that inclusive culture.
Precisely. And finally, it requires proactive outreach and political enforcement, making sure social justice isn't just a slogan. This shortfall, as the article stresses, it undermines India's vision of an inclusive education system. It's not just legal, it's a moral imperative.
A powerful call to action indeed. Okay, let's pivot now to our opinion section. This highlights a different angle on social progress, how technology is being used for social good, specifically the digital empowerment of women and children in India. The core idea here is that empowerment begins with access and how the government has aimed to, well, redefine and democratize this access through digital transformation.
What's really impactful here are the specific initiatives. It starts with Saksham Anganwadi. This program is modernizing over 2 lakh Anganwadi centers. These crucial community hubs get smart infrastructure, digital devices, improving delivery of nutrition, healthcare, even preschool education, real-time delivery.
And this integrates with the Poshan Tracker, right? Allowing for real-time data entry and monitoring for, what was it, over 10 crore beneficiaries?
Over 10.4 crore, yeah. A massive scale. And the system even won the Prime Minister's Award for Excellence in Public Administration recently.
That's impressive.
And to tackle leakage in the supplementary nutrition program, they've introduced a facial recognition system, making sure support reaches only eligible people.
Okay.
Beyond nutrition, tech is also boosting safety and support for women. There's the SheBox portal, an online platform for lodging sexual harassment complaints, streamlines the process.
And complementing that is the Mission Shakti dashboard and mobile app, connecting women to support centers.
Exactly. Integrated assistance for women in distress, linking them quickly to one-stop centers, which are now in nearly every district. Comprehensive support. Another really key initiative is the Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, PMMPY. It's described as a game changer in maternal welfare. Provides financial support, 5,000 euros for the first child, and an extra 6,000 if the second is a girl under Mission Shakti, actively encouraging daughters.
And it's fully digital.
Fully digital. Leveraging Aadhaar mobile registration, direct benefit transfer for efficiency and transparency. It's already dispersed 19,000 crore to over 4 crore women.
Wow. So with all this digital push, what are the tangible results, the actual outcomes?
Well, the data cited from the Health Management Information System is quite compelling. The sex ratio at birth has increased from 9.18 back in 2014-15 to 9.30 in 2023-24, a positive shift.
That's significant.
And maternal mortality rate has declined to 97 per 1,000 births for 2018-20 from 130 per 1,000 births in 2014-16, a major improvement. Digital tools have also boosted child protection. Things like the Carings portal for transparent adoptions, digitization for monitoring child care homes, foster care, even tracking child rights violations via the Mission Vatsalya dashboard.
It really does paint that picture of new India where governance meets technology and policy meets purpose. But while digital solutions offer promise, some challenges are, well, earthbound. Let's shift to our science section for a deep dive into Karnataka's groundwater crisis, its hard rock reality. What's really striking here is that 99% of the state relies on these stubbornly unyielding formations, hard rock aquifers for water.
Exactly. And unlike sedimentary aquifers, these have limited porosity. Water doesn't soak in or move easily, makes extraction and recharge much harder.
Right.
A new study from Well Labs in Chennai looked at 2 gram panchayats near Bengaluru in the upper Apathy watershed. It found something quite counterintuitive. Farmers drilling bore wells deep into the granite bedrock. Well, this actually creates microfractures. And these fractures act like express lanes, fast-tracking rainwater deep underground, bypassing the shallower aquifers that communities rely on. It disrupts the local hydrology.
And consequences are pretty stark. The water table continues to drop every year. The study cites a shocking statistic. Average drinking water borewell depth jumped from 183 meters between 2001-2011 to 321 meters between 2011-2021.
A huge increase.
Huge. And it says almost 55% of all wells drilled have failed, with 70% of drinking water wells failing within a decade. That's sobering.
It really is. And while they found high nitrate levels sometimes, the study concluded the overwhelming cause is the chronic and severe depletion of the water table. It's quantity, mainly.
So this leads to mounting challenges beyond just less water, right?
Absolutely. There's an economic crisis brewing for the Gram Panchayats because of the free electricity for farmers policy. They face steep electrical debt from farmers using powerful pumps to reach deeper water. Funds meant for development, often redirected just to pay electricity bills.
Ouch.
And for individual farmers, drilling a bore well costs a fortune, maybe 4 or 5 lakh, with no guarantee it'll hit water or last. This pushes small farmers to lease land, even migrate to cities.
And yet, the article notes a lack of efforts to educate farmers on the consequences of water-intensive cropping, even though everyone knows water is scarce.
That's a critical gap. The broader issue is the lack of quantitative evidence on the risks to water sustainability at the local level. Hard to predict failures, costs. The researchers argue compellingly that poor water resource management is the biggest threat to rural drinking water in India, often missed by global initiatives focused on quality.
So given this dire picture, what's being done? What needs to change fundamentally?
Well, projects like Sujala and Jal Jeevan Mission are funding infrastructure, which is needed, but their long-term success hinges on addressing the root crisis, groundwater depletion. As one author, Lakshmikantan NR, put it starkly, until and unless you change the farming technique of over-extraction, no amount of recharging will change the state of the groundwater.
Change the technique.
Yeah. He even suggests compensating farmers for using less power and water. Historically, the area relied on tanks, reservoirs. Bore wells led to their neglect. Now, even with heavy rain, local lakes are often dry due to encroachment. It really underscores the need for sustainable farming, recharge infrastructure, and policy incentives all working together.
That really highlights the delicate balance, doesn't it? Okay, from the ground beneath us, let's shift to a different journey. India's sporting journey, from survival to Olympic aspirations. The text section takes us through this evolution of sports policy. It's pretty interesting how it maps onto India's broader development. It traces roots back to prehistoric times. Skills like archery, wrestling, swimming were essential for survival. Now they're modern sports.
Right. And post-1947, the focus was understandably on nation building. Poverty, health, education. So sports weren't the top priority. But even then, India made a statement hosting the first Asian Games in New Delhi in 1951, showed aspiration.
Then came the All India Council of Sports, AICS, in 1954. But funding was modest, right? Athletes sometimes missed events.
Yeah, challenges remained. But you still had dominance in men's hockey and stars like Milkha Singh emerging against the odds.
True legends.
The 1982 Asian Games in Delhi were a real catalyst, though. That led to a dedicated Department of Sports, the first National Sports Policy, NSP, in 1984, and the Sports Authority of India, SAI, foundational steps.
Yet the article mentions a lag. Between 86 and 2000, global sports evolved fast, but things were tepid in India. Why the slower pace then?
Several reasons. Sports being a state subject meant fragmented efforts. The union budget was still modest, little private sector involvement, and the economy was slower then. But 1991 marked a turning point, economic liberalization. That brought cultural shifts, cable TV, a growing middle class, all increasing visibility and commercial interest in sports.
Okay, so liberalization was key. How did things progress post-2000?
More structure came in. The Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, MYAS, was created in 2000. A revised national sports policy in 2001 had clearer goals. The Olympic medal tally was still modest for a while, but then came the 2011 National Sports Development Code, NSDC, addressing governance, anti-doping, important groundwork.
And then the really visible schemes. TOPS, Target Olympic Podium Scheme in 2014. Khelo India in 2017. Fit India movement in 2019, a clear strategic push.
Absolutely. And now India's stated intent to host the 2036 Olympics is driving things further. We saw the Draft National Sports Policy and Draft National Sports Governance Bill released just this year for feedback. And the new NSP 2025, called Khelo Bharat Niti 2025, outlines the next steps.
So lots of momentum, but challenges remain.
Definitely. A major one is India topping the latest WOI global doping list. That's a serious issue. The call is for everyone involved to really prioritize scientific coaching, physical literacy, and sports and education, recognizing that lasting change demands sustained action. Building a sporting nation takes time.
Absolutely. A long journey. Okay, sticking with the tech section, let's turn to the tech world, specifically Google and its recent workforce reduction strategies. This is fascinating from a business and employee angle. The article highlights two main tactics: a voluntary exit program, or VEP for U.S. employees, and mandating a hybrid work schedule for remote workers.
Right. The VEP is essentially a buyout offer. Eligible Googlers can resign and get severance pay. It was offered across various teams: knowledge and information, central engineering, marketing, research, communications.
Why do this instead of layoffs?
Well, buyouts are generally seen as less drastic. They tend to generate less bad press than a mass layoff. And crucially, they reduce the risk of fired employees legally challenging their termination. It's a softer, though still difficult, approach.
That makes sense, especially after the backlash from the big 12,000 job cuts in early 2023. They probably wanted to avoid that again.
Exactly. And the new remote policy is another interesting strategy, asking remote employees near an office to come in 3 days a week. Labor advocates sometimes call this kind of move backdoor layoffs because, well, it can trigger employee resignations from people who can't or won't make the switch.
Even if the stated goal is internal mobility.
Right. The company said it was about internal mobility and creating growth opportunities, but the effect can be workforce reduction.
Is Google unique in this, or are other tech giants also adjusting?
Oh, definitely seeing similar trends. Intel and Microsoft are also cutting jobs. Intel's shutting its automotive business, laying off 15% to 20% of factory workers in one area. Microsoft made cuts in its Xbox division, about 305 jobs, after larger layoffs earlier. It signals a broader industry shift.
And Google has other headaches too, right? Like the upcoming DOJ antitrust remedies.
Yes, that's looming large. Judge Amit Mehta is considering proposals from the U.S. Department of Justice to curb Google's alleged illegal monopoly in some search markets. The DOJ wants strong measures, maybe even forced divestment of Chrome, their browser, and a technical committee for oversight.
Wow, divesting Chrome would be huge.
Huge. Google, naturally, is pushing for more lenient measures to protect its massive search and advertising business. The outcome there will be really significant for the tech landscape.
Absolutely fascinating stuff. Okay, for our final deep dive today, let's explore something fundamental to office life, the tech behind seamless communication. We're talking EPBX, that acronym.
Yeah.
EPBX. What does it actually stand for and what does it do?
Okay, so EPBX is Electronic Private Automatic Branch Exchange. Essentially, it's a private telephone network within an organization. Its core job is letting users answer, transfer, or forward calls, and crucially, make internal communication between different departments or branches without using the public lines. A mini exchange for the office.
Got it. So how does it handle internal calls, say, Arun calling Parathi?
Simple enough. Arun dials Bharathi's extension, maybe 104. The EPBX recognizes it's an internal call and connects them directly using its internal switching matrix. Completes the circuit, gets them talking privately.
And for external calls, getting out to the wider world.
For that, you usually dial an access card, often 0. The EPBX then hunts for a free trunk line that connects to the public telephone network, the PSTN. If all trunk lines are busy, you just get a busy signal. No path out at that moment.
Okay. And incoming calls, how are those routed? Is it still a receptionist patching people through?
It used to be. Older systems needed manual transfer, but modern automatic EPBX systems are much smarter. They often use an interactive voice response menu, press 1 for sales, or can directly route calls to specific extensions based on the number dialed or even time of day.
Right. Automated attendance.
Exactly. The switching mechanism, the article says, is the most critical part.
How did that work in the early days? The 70s, 80s?
It was quite physical back then, using electromechanical switches such as crossbar relays. The article uses a great analogy. Think of it like a railway yard. An incoming call is a train. The EPABX is the control system using railway point switches to direct that train or call to the right track, the right extension.
That's a great visual.
Yeah, dialing a number activated a sequence of these physical relays to literally complete an electrical circuit between the caller and recipient. You can also picture a multi-level network, main line splits to branches, then sub-extensions. The switcher activates the right relays along the path.
So physical relays. What tech do we use today? It's obviously evolved.
Dramatically. The 80s brought electronic devices instead of electromechanical ones. Faster, more reliable. Then came digital signals using pulse code modulation, PCM. That allowed for time division, multiplexing, TDM, letting multiple calls share one line.
More efficient.
Much more. And now the big thing is voice over IP, VoIP technology, in modern digital PBX systems. Voice, even multimedia, just travels over the internet. These modern systems integrate with everything: voicemail, call recording, those automated attendants we mentioned. It's all networked now.
Thank you for listening. If today's episode gave you something useful, consider following us on Spotify so you're the first to hear the next one. You can give suggestions by contacting on Twitter handle given in the episode description. We are always eager to hear what our listeners want to be informed about. Wish you a great day.